So good morning. Today we're here with Corey Griffith, and he's an educator in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're doing some interviews to talk with some different men about what it was like for them to grow up. So, hi, how are you, Corey?
Hey, I'm well. How are you, Jill?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you live, how you grew up?
Well, I'm currently I'm just a 31-year-old. Well, I'll be 31 years old on February the 26th. I teach out here in Atlanta, Georgia. I went to school at Jackson State University, where I majored in elementary education with a concentration in reading and social studies. I also went back and got a master's of science in reading education, where I focus on the foundational components of reading, whether it be phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And we use those skills. Well, I use those skills to cultivate a reading mentality and instill a love of reading in students of all ages. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, in a very rural environment. Well, actually, it's a rural environment, but it was actually considered the city. I grew up in an impoverished community where I came from a broken family where I lived with my mom and my five siblings. Um,
Okay,
I,
so you actually grew up in a city.
yes, I
You
did.
said, okay, and you said you grew up with your mom and how many siblings?
Five.
Okay. And what number were you?
I am the third from the bottom. I don't know what the name of that one is. I guess it's close to the middle, but I'm not the knee baby, and I'm not the baby. So,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
do. Go ahead.
And so tell us what it was like where you grew up in your neighborhood.
Well, it was honestly, it wasn't as bad as it may seem to others, being that I felt extremely comfortable because it was what I was accustomed to. Now, from the outside looking in, and being having been able to transcend and see different things in life, when I do look back and I take a retrospective view, things are a bit tough, and it's like, wow, how did I actually make it through what I saw or what I experienced? But when you're in that situation, it's just a means of survival, and it's just like, hey, let's be the best that we can be, and nothing else even matters.
Okay. So you didn't grow up with a dad that was present in your life, or tell me a little bit about your dad.
Well, my father, he is, and I say he is because he has an addiction to alcohol. And my father has forever battled an addiction with alcohol, and that is just what he loves. Now, he is functioning, he does work, and he does, love, but that did affect his ability to operate as father in a household that says, hey, you are responsible for this young man's growth and this young lady's growth while also loving your wife and your family at the same time. It didn't necessarily make him a bad guy, but by societal standards, he was not the standard or the measure for what a man or a father should be inside of a home. Now, he did show me plenty of love, no matter what he did or no matter how he dissatisfied others. He never put me in a situation where I felt like my father is purposefully neglecting me or he doesn't love and care for me. Now, when it comes to others, especially my mom, and what she wants for herself and her family, she had to make sacrifices that would put her family in a better place and would put her in a better place to move forward. And my father did not um, fit the bill as it related to us, trying to progress, which we ultimately did, and do great things in this world.
Okay. Okay. So tell me, did your mom, did she work a lot?
Oh, my mom worked two jobs. My mom, before she became an educator herself, she was an assistant teacher. My mom, she had her first kid when she was 15 years old, and that kind of put her behind the eight ball, so to speak, because she immediately met adulthood and she was forced to get out and fend for herself and feed kids, and for me, it was I understand that. Now I also have to help feed my brothers and sisters, and I also have to feed and clothe myself while also chasing my dreams. And one thing my mom did instill in me is something that is immeasurable and invaluable, and that is a sincere belief that whatever I think and whatever I feel and whatever I believe in can become my reality. And that was the thing that held me each and every day, regardless if she was at the local elementary school or if she was at a department store until 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Um,
So did you have to get yourself up and ready for school and, um, what about dinner and things like that? Was she not available because she was working so hard to keep your family
well,
afloat?
one thing about it, available in the sense of physicality or presence, um, that is a thing that's something that you can't equate to the actual sense of availability, because just because you're not there physically doesn't mean that you haven't made the provisions to provide for a family. Now, one thing about it, we may not have had the best of everything, or we may not have had, adequate supplies, but we did have enough to make ourselves feel like, hey, there will be a brighter day tomorrow. And that was all taken care of by my mom and older siblings as well.
Wow, that's really great. Okay. Okay, and so just as far as your schoolwork, tell me a little bit about how you were in school and what it was like growing up. And did you like school? Did you not like school? Did you do well? Tell me about that.
Well, school for me has always been something that I have loved. Now, from the very beginning, before preschool, I can remember reading. Reading is what I love. I've always loved that. It's actually one of my intelligences, along with, verbal linguistic. So naturally, I have always been one to excel academically. I was always gifted. I was always AP. I was always the top of my class. It has always been that way. And I have to give much credit to not only my mom, but also my father, who possessed the same genetic traits. My father, although he was or is a struggling addict, he is still extremely intelligent, far more intelligent than anyone could possibly imagine a man to be. And he passed that down to me more so than my mom did. So through school, I enjoyed school, but it was only until I was in the 8th grade when my brother passed away that I began to take steps backwards as far as being able to function inside of a classroom, listen to teachers. I wasn't focused. I was spaced out. Life was coming at me fast. I had been introduced to death for the first time in my life, and I couldn't understand it. So I started to look within early, and I depended solely on things that others can't see, and faith became my best friend. And so, go ahead.
Okay, so boy, I am so sorry that happened. That must have been really hard. And I wonder, do you, when things started to fall apart for you at school and you couldn't focus and you couldn't behave, tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, were the teachers understanding? Were they understanding at first? Did you know that the reason you couldn't behave or focus was because of the death? Or tell me about that.
Well, I won't say that all of the teachers could understand. There were a few. But the crazy part about it is the only ones who could truly understand what I was going through were the ones who actually looked like me. They were the ones who actually took the time to come through the neighborhood, to stop by the local community centers, or to, invest in me, pick me up for football practice, to coach me, to mentor me, to actually listen versus leaning on their own understandings, which were faulty and skittish. But at the time, I really didn't know how I was responding, because it was my first time. I was living and I was learning, and I was fighting my way through a cloudy atmosphere, trying to figure out, hey, what just happened? And this is all compiled on top of a situation that was already faulty to begin with. Foundation had already had cracks in it. So to further, compound that fracture or stress that fracture with the addition of something so tragic was something that I wasn't able to fight until my mind was cognitively prepared to battle with such traumatic events.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I got to high school, my 9th and 10th grade year, shortly after my 8th grade year, 9th and 10th grade, I began to associate with a different crowd, a different type of people. Not saying that I was trying to be cool. I was always cool. And that's not me bragging, but I've always been a cool, popular kid. But when I got around this other group who was cool and popular also, I had to make decisions based on what I felt was okay. So I chose to, hey, let's go. I was always smart about what I chose to do, but just being associated with certain people opened me up to so much more that a school is not even prepared to even speak to.
Okay, so tell me, what do you mean by that? Give me some examples.
Well, what, what do you want? Like, there's everything out there now. These are the things that most educators and most principals and superintendents are, I don't want to say ignorant to, but they're not abreast. When you start talking about teen sex, when you start talking about drugs, when you start talking about alcohol, when you start talking about burglary, when you start talking about crime, when you start talking about skipping school, when you start talking about just the overall peer pressures of being an adolescent, there is so much coming at you when you talk about sports, when you talk about entertainment, and now it's even worse. But then you have to do things to especially when you don't have a strong support system. You have to do things to survive. You have to do things to make yourself feel comfortable. You have to do things to make yourself be a part of life, because if you don't, there is no one there to pick you up and push you along. So it's like, well, hey, I have to do what I have to do in order to be where I want to be. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you do that? I mean, if I was gonna guide a boy in 9th or 10th grade like you were at that point, how do you, as an adult, what can we do? You say you had a crack in the foundation. So a lot of the times I think people think, well, it's the parents' job to do this, it's the parents' job to do that. But what if that's not available? How do we as educators fix this, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the way that you fix it is by looking at that individual, that student. When you start seeing signs, when you start seeing him wear a shirt that you've never seen him wear, or when you start seeing him use language, I apologize. When you start seeing that student use language that you've never seen him use before, it's time for you to pay attention to the signs. And when you pay attention to those signs, you have to speak to that then. And first, you have to let him or her know that they are a human being. And not just a test subject, not just someone who is not unintelligent because he or she cannot score advanced or proficient on an assessment, not because they're not in the top 10 or they don't make your numbers look good. No, you have to stop and look at the root cause of what's happening. And that's the only way that you can start building a relationship that will allow you to penetrate the very membrane and get down to the source.
Wow. That's some really cool insight. I really like that. Is there anything else that you would, if you knew that a boy who's 14 or 15 was going to see this, is there anything that you would say that you think would help them if they were ever in a situation like you were, and the things that you were exposed to?
This is what I would tell them. Take a look in the mirror. You know that you are great. That feeling that you have inside of your bones and your heart, what you know that you can become, the visions that you have for yourself, trust in those visions because they aren't given to you haphazardly or accidentally. Those visions are the true visions of yourself. You can become what you want to become, but it's about what you're reading. It's about the people that you are being around. It's books, ideas, and goals. BIG, books, individuals, and goals. Think big. Don't watch TV all day. Don't sit in your house on your Wi-Fi all day, wasting your time on video games. It's time to get serious because life is going to run at you very quickly. And opportunity and success are tied hand in hand because success happens when opportunity and preparation collide. When the right opportunity presents itself, you can only become successful when you are then prepared to meet it and then satisfy the obligations of such. So just continue to chase your dreams, continue to be positive and know that there is a brighter day. And especially for those who feel like life is tough, extremely tough right now, great. You know why? Because there is only up from here. You can't get any worse. Like right now, I'm at a place in my life where I am not worried about anything happening because I know that I've seen the worst of the worst. And it's okay. And everything that happens to me now is absolutely beautiful. So be positive and understand that you are born with a take and you have to go and get it.
Corey, thank you so much. That was just really insightful and really helpful. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jill.